So just a question along that line is, what about 360 deals? Have you seen networks or packagers asking for percentages of the ancillary income from, say, the talent for their books, their merchandising,
From the network?
from the talent? And the network asking for...
Oh, the talent asking. Yeah. NBC Universal is getting pretty aggressive.
Right.
But that's the only one I know of who, and I think they're creating those franchises where their characters don't always own businesses, but they're making them into these. You know, Bethany, I think was the case.
It was the game changer.
Yeah, it was a game changer.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I think-
HGTV.
I think for the most part, there's a separation in terms of licensing and merchandising revenues, that if you're an existing business, you've trademarked your name, so any revenue that comes out of that business that's specific to that name or your personal appearances, that stays with you, and the show-related merchandise or revenue streams.
And that's making it harder. You know, that's going to make it harder to sign talent because that's the whole motivation for doing it. I think it's
Speed to air is really important from a competitive standpoint, and that kind of deal making really slows speed to air.
it takes forever.
You kind of answered the talent part of what happens between the production company and the network on success, right? Which is it can move over from you, Brent, to the network. But Robin, all of you, what happens to the rest of the transactional deal points, the license fee, the AGR back-end participation? What happens from the initial deal to when you have proven you're a success? What's the kind of the change in the structure of the deal points, or what's it like?
The deal's negotiated. You have your list of deal points you go in for. You want your bump per season. You want your back end. You want your minimum. You want your cycle to be short in terms of you want to try to maximize it at 26 episodes, so that when they order more episodes, you get your bump. There's all those deal points in there, and it's a case by case scenario. If sometimes you're going to be able to go back and have a little leverage and change those deal points, and sometimes it's not going to happen, and you're going to be, pissed off, and you're not going to get the terms you want. But that's part of the game.
Yeah, I think the talent deals get restructured more often than the production company deals do across the industry, and in some ways that makes sense. That's their one opportunity to monetize, their life's work, where we have many opportunities. And for us, it's great to go back to history and not be the same producer who brought them a show a couple of years ago. So we've gotten better deals as a result of delivering a hit, which has been great.
2 points. One is, if there's an existing business, usually the deal would be what's the uptick between what your current business is prior to the first episode to the last episode, and maybe 1 year afterwards come across. And the other part of it is clients say, well, I'm locked in like 5 cycles, or basically maybe I'm getting a 5% bump after each cycle. What happens if it becomes a hit? I said, well, you're not going to be a happy camper after about the second or third season, and maybe you're going to have to go back, and they may go back and renegotiate your agreement, but you can't put it down on paper.
Well, to that second point, what we always try to establish to people is you've got to be resourceful and you've got to go into this knowing that 99 out of 100 times you're not going to become rich off of the talent deal, what you're being paid by the network. That's not where you're going to become rich. You're going to become rich off doing, and the Pawn Stars are the best I've ever seen at it. They have appearances on the weekend where they essentially replicate the show in front of big audiences. And not only, they have so many revenue streams, these guys. So they're doing this show where people pay $75 a head to come in. And then on the side, they're actually buying and selling stuff. People will sell them gold for a little bit cheaper than they would elsewhere because they got to say, I sold it to the Pawn Stars. That's what we try to really work with those guys, and even in our deals with them, try to figure out ways to where we can be incentivized to help them grow their business. Because if they do have a business or a talent, that's where they're going to make the lion's share of their money.
I agree. I mean, what we have always said, and I have seen this on show after show after show I've worked on with talent, is an important message for a legal and BA team is to say, you are never going to get rich off your episodic fee. If that's your only revenue stream, you are playing small fry. It's looking at what the other business opportunities are, and the most successful talent are the ones that leverage them. I had the privilege of working with Mike Rowe for a long time, who is one of the best businessmen I have ever seen. And I think he used Dirty Jobs as a platform to, get millions and millions and millions in endorsement and commercial deals and public speaking engagements and voiceover work. I mean, Dirty Jobs was a tiny part of what his income was.
I think it's just giving them that message that we're going to launch your brand, and then it's up to you what you do with it from there.
And we'll help you,
Yeah.
because everybody
It's a
win.
win.
Wins.
So, Brent, you invest in discovering the talent. Do you also participate in their successes as a production company?
We try to figure out ways to where it will make sense for both parties. To be honest, we haven't done a lot of it yet, but we're getting more aggressive as well. And we have 250 young, smart, creative people who can help create ideas and all kinds of stuff for these characters, because they essentially don't have any time on their hands once they've gone into this, and a lot of the TV characters don't have the capital still, and they're hearing all of a sudden from all these venture capitalists or other people who don't always have their best interest at heart. We have so much shared interest already that we try to find ways to work together.
As attorneys, we get phone calls from the guy who had the article in the Post or the Times. I'm thinking one who's the knife sharpener, the stars. They get a phone call from a producer who's interested in developing their show as a reality show. But they have no money to pay a lawyer to make the deal. I mean, how realistic is it to call either an agent or a producer or a showrunner to pitch that type of a person to you? I mean, who do we start with? Who do we talk to even see if it's a talent that someone's interested in? Or are we better off going to a network or to an agent?
You're better going off to somebody prior to the network. I mean,
Right.
We won't talk with you.
well, first of all, obviously it's a visual medium, so it's generally better if you see them on tele. If you see them on a news clip or something that everybody has you. If they're a real character who wants to be in front of the camera, they'll generally have some kind of clips, and that's a great way to just send out an email with a quick clip. I mean, I can usually tell within 30 seconds whether or not somebody is a decent character, whether or not it's worth pursuing more. But we also use that as a casting tool. We have a show on Bravo right now that was based on an article I read in the New York Post. We didn't go to the place that was mentioned in the Post because every producer called them. We went to another person who was doing the same thing that nobody was calling, and we were able to get in there quicker.
Right.
So
I mean, when lawyers get these strange phone calls from a producer, it's good to know who the producer is pitching to or who they're talking to.
yeah, I mean, to be a producer, there is no bar to pass, and that's the scariest thing. I think really quickly looking at people's track records and is it in the same, if I was somebody who had an idea for a really dangerous job, I would go to the guy that does Deadliest Catch, Ice Road Truckers, and all those shows, because he knows that world, and he'll know whether or not it's been pitched more so than I would. So it's trying to kind of find somebody who does that niche, who's out there, and just establishing relationships. Our team gets frustrated when people just can't understand why we're passing. And I'm sure it's the same as the network. But if somebody's bringing us good ideas, and we're passing usually because we just don't have the resources to do everything, then we're in love with those people that'll keep coming back with good ideas until we find one that really gels together. But that's I think, the way television news is done is by reading the newspaper in the morning. The same stories, that's where they steal from. We're always reading the magazines and the papers looking for those type people.